has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system. 81.
Of course he doesn't have a voicemail.
2.
Of course he doesn't have a
0,
setup.
5, 2, 3 is not available. The mailbox is full and cannot accept any messages at this time. Goodbye.
Hey, you're on speakerphone with the Refinery episode 9. You okay?
I'm very fine. I was passed
out. That's even better. All right. Well,
at least he's safe.
It was like, wait, why is my phone ringing? What the hell? What the hell?
Well, we had to get started, but we didn't actually start because we were hoping that you'd call in. Go on and sign on, and we'll sign you in. I can't wait to see what you look like 10 minutes after waking up.
I look beautiful.
Of course you look beautiful. All right, bye. Yep. So, welcome to the Refinery episode 9 for the third time. Like I've said this so many times at this point. One was last week, one was 20 minutes ago, and one was just now when you heard it. Today's topic is one that I think we're all really excited about. So, John, I'm going to throw it over to you. I think I have to do this, even though it's actually that way. Otherwise, I'll have to flip it. It doesn't matter. Throw it over to John. Bring us on in.
All right. This week's topic is going to be how, in a world today where there's so many options, how do we choose? How do we choose the option that's right? And then how do we commit to that choice when that whole idea of FOMO, fear of missing out, or potentially another quote unquote better option shows up? How do we still stay committed to the choice that we made in today's world, especially with like instant gratification and all that?
Yeah. Well, Brandon, you had the most to say in the text thread, so I'm going to throw it to you also because I want to see what Sleepy Bear Jones comes up with quick on the fly. You had 2 weeks of prep and a whole night's rest right before this, so let's see what you got.
I think I was thinking about this actually recently. I was kind of scrolling through my feed and I saw just different things, right? Everything from travel to different people, different occupations. And I was thinking to myself, God, I really want to unfollow. This is just a very small example. I want to unfollow a lot of people that I haven't followed because they don't really necessarily, they're not really serving me in any way, right? And I think the idea sometimes is more enticing to have all these options than it really is, than to have a couple of things in your life that serve you or that are aligned with who you are as a person. And so how I kind of translated it into particular dating, if you will, and choosing a person for you, even though something better or looks, whatever the case may be, better comes along. There's something, we've talked about this so many times on the show, but choosing something means understanding that if something that were to seemingly better come along, you would say, I've chosen this, right? I've made a choice that even if something looks better, sounds better, treats me better, comes along per se, I've made a choice and decision, and I'm going to see this thing through and not just dump it at the first sign of something better coming along. Because, and this is, you know, whatever the grass is greener where you water it kind of thing, but it really truly is, right? Your grass is greener because it's turf. It's fake. No matter if I watered it or the sun hit it, it's not real. So of course it appeals to me better because it's not real. I can't grow a garden in that. I can't do anything with that. It's just there for show. But in my garden, if I have someone that I can continue to grow with and grow in, there's a potential of planting roses. There's a potential of pulling up weeds. There's a potential of planting a tree that provides shade. If I decide to, even though the turf looks better. Where I need to be and where I want to be is where I can put the work in, because it's alive, it's living. And so I think, unfortunately, a lot of people see the flashy thing or the appealing thing to their eyesight, because everything right now is visual, that they forget that some of the best things in life may not appear that great on the outside, but provide benefits more than you could actually see on the surface, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I want to leave that at.
So I'll question a little bit of that and challenge in a way of, do you feel like it's turf because is the turf the relative fantasy of what
Yep.
Okay, so you're saying it's fake because it's what you fantasize that to be.
Fantasize. Yep.
Okay. So one of the interesting things about choice, and with just going along with this, is I could look at somebody else's grass, and even if theirs is lush and there's a bunch of trees and it is beautiful and maybe it is real, that's fine. But I think, kind of piggybacking on what you're saying, it's I guess I don't care. I don't give a fuck. It can be real or it can be fake, but I don't care, because, and it's not because I made my choice. I make my choice every day. I could choose at any time. And this is what I love about choice, John, why I love that you brought this up. I can choose at any time, and so can she, to leave, to go somewhere else. But I have no interest in other pastures. It doesn't matter what they look like. It doesn't matter what they're filled with. It doesn't matter what they could offer me, because I know what mine offers me, and mine offers me already the Garden of Eden. It is everything that I hope it to be and more. And you're right, there is planting, there is pulling weeds, there is all of those things. And I would look at, like, say you're on the hilltop and you're looking out at your land. I see my land. And then if somebody rides, if anything, someone rides through my land and they've got like a little cart of flowers, and they're like, look at my flowers. I'm like, that's cool, get off my land. Fuck out of here. Like, that's just, this is my land. And that's what she is, and that's what we've built. We have built something like that, and we build it every day.
Yeah.
And so that choice is, yes, choice is always going to be there. And I think the analogy that John made, and John, I am fully giving you credit for this because I do not want to steal this, but I'm using it, that he talked about when we were on here before. He talked about the Cheesecake Factory and how that menu is grand versus a Michelin star restaurant where you only have a few options to choose from. But the thing is, if I go to a restaurant and I know what I want, doesn't matter how many options.
Doesn't matter how many options.
I'm fucking get that. I will get that thing. And if I go to another restaurant and there's only 5 things and they're like, you will choose one of these 5 things and you will fucking like it. Like, I might think your preparation's strange. I might not like the atmosphere. I might, you know what I mean? There's like a million. I think when you figure out, and this goes back to what we talked about in episode 8 at the end, when Brandon so kindly asked me that question about, when the turning point happened in the relationship, was I choose for me now. I'm not hopefully a good husband or a good whatever because of anything other than I choose it for me. It makes me happy. I know what I want, and she is every version of that. So I think it, for me, is less about the other thing being fake and me needing to do I don't care what you think of my yard. I give less than a flying fuck what anybody else thinks of my relationship. It's fucking awesome, and I love it, and that's why I choose it. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Analogies, over to John for 200.
Well, it's 2 parts, actually. Both of you brought up something that resonated. I mean, with what Brandon was saying, with like it comes down to who do you choose to build a foundation with. It's like not what the prettiest thing, because if it already has trees and flowers, it's like going and buying. I bought one time when I was at Trader Joe's thing of tulips that was in a little pot and I was planting there and then down. I'm like, oh, this is cool. I'll have like flowers growing all the time. Came home, looked up how to take care of these, and they're like, no, once these flower one time, you can throw away the whole thing. It's never gonna flower again. So it's just like, all right. So I bought this pretty little thing, but in realization, like there's no foundation to this. It's gonna be thrown away in 2 weeks. And so it's the same thing. Like what Brandon was saying is like, who do I actually want to build a foundation with? It doesn't need to look pretty right now, but what could potentially look pretty? Where's the soil look the best where I want to plant a garden and where I want to plant grass? But then also including to that, Cole, you said something that I haven't thought about in a long time, but one of my favorite quotes is senior to your circumstances. And it's something that was brought up to me a couple of years ago. I did a workshop and I was staffing it. And man, these are long days, like 12, 14-hour days. And there was another guy in it. He was probably in his like mid-50s. I know he has kids. I know he has a family. I know he has a company that he runs. And yet he was there every day with it. And it was like 11:30 at night. He was all chipper. He walks in. I'm like, dude, how are you so like have energy right now? He's like, dude, energy is choice. He's like, end of the day, senior to your circumstances. And I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, look, you have choice for every single. He's like, I'm married, kids. A real estate company that I started. I have 7 employees. If I wanted to, I can leave my wife and leave tomorrow. No one's stopping me. I don't have to be there for my kids. It's like, they can figure it out themselves. It's like, I can close my company tomorrow. It's like, I don't owe anything to my employees. I can fire them all and let them go. I don't have to worry about any of this. I choose to be there. I choose to show up for my family. I choose to be there for my kids. I choose to run my company. I choose to show up for my employees. And so it's just like, it's a choice in the end of the day. And when you realize that everything in your life is a choice and you don't have to, like if we're talking about relations, you don't have to stay in a relationship you're not happy in. But if you feel like you're forced in this relationship, then then you're like looking at the other options. Oh, I wish I had that. Oh, I wish I had that. But then part of it is also like in the acknowledgement that you've given up your choice, or that for some reason you don't think you have a choice. So when you actually come from a place of I have choice, a lot of times we look at what we have and kind of like again to what Brandon was saying, you can have something here, but something pretty shows up and you're like, well, this looks really great. Like this is all pretty. But really the choice is like, hold on, I've been putting work to this. Like there's a reason I'm here. There's a responsibility of ownership of what I have here. And I'm going to see this out, like see this through. And if for some reason I see this through and it doesn't work out, I don't have to stay here. Like I have a choice to leave and go do something else if that's the ultimate choice.
I want to offer something. I'm so sorry to jump back in. So there is one thing that we keep saying that I think that I want to make sure is not the only way that we say it. Angie's grass was always pretty fucking dope. Like she always looked like a palace. She always looked like something I wanted to be. She was the greener grass. She was on the other side of me being single. So I don't want whoever's watching this to think like if you're in a relationship and it's not shiny and then something shiny and beautiful and it inspires you and gets your fucking soul going and your motor revving, like that's the thing to go to, is the thing that over time revs you and gets your soul ready and makes you feel like you're on your path. It's not the thing. I think people choose the pretty thing a lot of times, the pretty thing, and blame this other thing for not being enough. They chose that and they weren't enough to go, hey, this is the issues I have with this and I don't really even want to work on it with you because I'd rather go have sex with this person, which is totally fine. But like that's the way out of that. I got out of the relationship I was in, made sure that she would, and we made sure we grew as friends, but never crossed that line. But all I wanted was that thing. And it has grown and continued to grow into a more and more beautiful thing. But the foundation, like I didn't look at her and then find out that it was something that had a cracked foundation about. She was always crazy awesome. And then just figuring out how to continue building that and how to learn those skills together was the amazing thing. I just want to make sure anybody listening doesn't think of it only as, well, the thing you're with is the not shiny thing and the thing out there is shiny. And I think maybe that's part of where we all as a society have gone wrong is we look at the thing outward that we don't have always as shiny, and it's not. If what you have is.
I think also,
Go ahead.
I just want to add one comment. Is also acknowledging our society has become very big on instant gratification, and it's like pausing for a moment. And it's like, am I just trying to satisfy something that's in the instant and that's not actually long term? Because a lot of times people look at that instant moment, I want that, but then they look at the big picture and they're like, actually, I don't want that. I want to stay where I'm at. And I think sometimes sometimes we forget about that instant gratification part that we need to include in like not rushing to fulfill.
Yeah. And why
I mean, I think in the time of, John used the perfect word, instant gratification. It's interesting. It's interesting what happens when people become comfortable or familiar with a certain relationship or a way of being. That person's the person that's always talking to you, always complimenting you. That's the person you know you can lean on. And then the second something new kind of pops up and catches your eye, what was that? And that little bit of, it's not about not, I'm trying to find the right word for it, but what I've been seeing from different people I've had conversations with, things on social media, because I work with a lot of singles, a lot of people allow this impulsive moment of, ooh, that excited me because it was new, to lead them away from something that's really, really good for them. Mm-hmm. Simply because, this is not everyone, but people have let this moment of like, oh, I really, really like this feeling, to draw them away from someone that could potentially, if you communicate it to them, like you said, Colt, communicate to them, whatever the case may be, or even just been honest with yourself about the relationship, you wouldn't have allowed this little moment of like a DM or a comment or a photo or someone's friend that's been coming around to draw you away or distract you from what was in front of you.
And I think though that is the thing that is most important to pay attention to. It's not the world of choices. It's why you feel that you have choices. It's why do you like, ironically, I was writing down, why do we want IG? And I was like, oh my God, instant gratification. And that's what it is. Instagram is instant fucking gratification for all of us. We look at it and we go, oop, it's filled.
By the way, IG for Instagram is really, but it's really instant gratification.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Oh my God, you guys, double rainbow. I will be inserting a GIF here. So what I'm saying though is it's the why. So looking at the relationship and going, why, and not just the relationship, it is important to, one of the things we've been talking about a lot this week, so therefore in upcoming videos, is you are together, you are in like a long-term relationship or any relationship, there is the you two, and then there is the you two, very separate. You have to be an individual and be together. Like those are two separate things. But you have to look at yourself and go, why do I want this? Because again, and I'm not harping on it in a way of being like holier than thou or above it. It's just that I came to a certain point where I don't care if a very pretty celebrity that I'm working with gives me a compliment comparatively. Like it just doesn't, you no longer, not today, Satan, like you don't hold that power over me. You know what I mean? And I think it's the why. I no longer have a reason to look outwardly for that. And I think that what we need to do is when we have those feelings, almost as opposed to going straight to those feelings, is go, why do I feel like this? Why is this person not enough for me? Why do I hope that this is enough? Why does this mean more to me right now than that has meant over however much time? And I think understanding more of that is going to fix why we're making these decisions in the first place, and taking a genuine look at the relationship. But I think that gets a lot of airtime, is, well, look at the relationship and see what the issues are. Look at yourself. Look in the fucking mirror. Like, what's going on there?
Yeah, what do you think leads to someone, let's say they're in a relationship with someone for like a year or two, and then suddenly someone else is catching their attention? Where do you think that's coming from?
I honestly, I think it's so situational that it's something that I couldn't
Right.
technically venture to guess about. You know what I mean? And I think that's the thing is we really do want IG. We want instant gratification. We want answers. We want to click on that video, and that's going to give us that one piece of advice that is going to solve our fucking lives. But the truth is, think about before we had this inundation of fucking mediocre quotes and, shit online 24/7. Before we had all of this, to get this kind of knowledge, we had to like either apprentice with somebody or have a parent or some mentor in our life that shared this knowledge with us, that put us on a path. And now I think that we get so much of it that it just kind of is like, a lot of it's just like, and then every once in a while you hit one and it's like, oh, that's cool. I got to remember that. And then we don't. And I think that there's not one thing I can say. It's really looking at yourself and going, why do you have a pattern of this? I had a pattern of that. I used to cheat on people all the time. It was like my fucking pastime. It was like my favorite thing to do was get attention from whoever I could and just like run with it. And that was an energy to me. That was like a vibe. That was a feeling that I sought out. And it was because I was not actually in these relationships. My heart wasn't in them.
Right.
I was in them, but my heart wasn't. And so I was looking everywhere else for the things I was missing, but I also didn't want to be single because I felt like that meant that I wasn't doing something right. So I don't know. That's going to be person to person and situation to situation, relationship to relationship. But I think it's a lack of transparency, whether it's with yourself or with the person you're in the relationship with, or both, usually both.
I mean, 1000%. I mean, I got into I got into a lot of trouble with this post I put up about women. And I said, guys, I don't normally do this, but I want to touch on something that I've been seeing with a lot of women, that I talk to guys and they've been dating these women and they are looking for something else. And I keep talking to women and they keep talking about this feeling, this thing, right? And it somewhat sounds like a fairy tale sometimes, right? It really sounds like this thing that's like, baby, you create the fireworks. Like, you can have fireworks, but sometimes if you look at why there's fireworks with that particular guy, there's a dysfunction in why you're drawn to him, whether he's emotionally unavailable, whether you feel like you have to earn his love. You realize that draw and that fire isn't based in love. It's based in meeting your trauma and something that you don't understand about yourself. Like, so what happens when you heal and you no longer need that to excite you? Then what? What's the draw? What's the pull then? I think that's what Anne was talking about in one of her episodes. It was like, Colt, you're a good guy, but like I used to be drawn to these particular guys that weren't healthy at all. And what happens when you heal is you're no longer drawn to those guys. And so go ahead.
I'll say I'll actually disagree on that one, only because she wasn't attracted to, and I know what you're talking about.
Sure.
It's not that she was attracted to the abusive guys. She was just attracted. I mean, these are also different ages and different times.
Yeah.
I think it's more of, in that video that I think you're referencing, where she was talking about with the fireworks, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that person that she was dating, where there were no fireworks, was this super kind, sweet, loving, generous, thoughtful person that I'm so thankful she was with, because he healed her from the previous relationship that she was so young when she got into. She didn't realize what it was, and it turned into a very abusive relationship.
Sure.
And she had such a hard time breaking away from that, that then when she met him, there was this, but this guy was, for lack of a better term, just not attractive. And he's not, I mean, in her own words, she was just not attracted to him at all.
Sure.
So what she was looking for, though, was the guy who was both. So I was the one who would party till 5 in the fucking morning and do all sorts of drinking and drugs and fucking get down. And I was down to fight. I was down to be fucking rowdy. I would get rowdy very often, but I was also capable eventually, and this is eventually, of loving and being a nice guy and a good guy. That was all encompassed within that. And I think that's what some of these girls are looking for, it seems, is that they want it all. And the thing is, they deserve it all. Just like we deserve to have a person in our lives who is everything that we dreamed of. We don't have to dumb down our hopes and dreams, and they shouldn't either. We just have to step up and be those things.
But I think there's definitely to me, there's definitely a line of, is this guy really healthy for me that I'm drawn to? Not every guy that they stick with is going to be a Colt.
Fair.
Like, if he's honestly not healthy because he's not texting her back, because he's clearly looking at other chicks, because he's openly telling you should be okay with me double tapping a model on Instagram, that's your insecurity.
That's bullshit. No, she fucking red flag.
Oh, but that's what I'm getting at, right?
Okay.
That's what I'm getting at. I'm not talking about someone who has the potential and is willing to put the work in. I'm talking about continually being drawn to guys that present something in you, but you'll miss out on the red flags because, well, I can change him. I can make him better. I can make him these things.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation that I definitely want to touch on.
So I want to say, yes, I agree with you, and because this isn't a but, I agree with you in the sense of, like, yes, some guys need someone to work with them through this until they can kind of soften up a bit. Because yes, women want a guy who is both. He is soft and solid. He is gentle and firm. He is a badass and a sweetheart, right? Yes, ladies, just so I can say this for the record, you do deserve that. I 100% agree. But really look at, am I bypassing his red flags because of the potential of what he could become? Right? Am I looking past them because of the potential of what he could become? So what I pretty much said to them is this. I said, really look at the choices you're making, right? And I said, sometimes if you're with a good guy, if you leave him because the bad boys come along or something's happened, I said, you got to really look at that choice you're making. Look at the choice you're making. I'm not shunning anybody, judging anybody, because everyone's on their own path and own journey. I'm saying, in the same breath, you can't complain that I'm single. Like, that's my thing, is like, there's this saying, in the same breath that they're saying, I can't find a good man, da 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 da. Well, you had a good guy. You enjoyed that good guy. You let the good guy go. So don't complain about the singleness you've chosen for yourself. You've now chosen this place in life. So if you really believe that guy is out there, then don't say there's no good men, there's no real men, because you're feeding to a narrative that you won't acknowledge that you play a part in by now letting that go and seeking something else. No, there's good guys out there. You just didn't enjoy that guy. What I love about what Ann said about the other guy is she acknowledged that he was a good guy. She was not complaining that good men don't exist. She was not complaining that, oh my God, I'm single, I can't find a good one. But I've seen it. I've seen where there's a complaint about there's no good men, there's no real men, there's no this. But if you've met one, if you come in contact with one and not chosen him, I would say there's no room to complain because you made a choice other than what you've seen. So I know we've gone somewhat on a tangent, and maybe episode 9 is the episode that we decide to disagree on, Cole. Because I've seen your face this whole time.
I'm into it. No. I'm thinking. I'm going to take some notes. John, jump on in.
John.
Yeah.
Jump in, brother.
John.
Well, it's interesting because, like, the part you were saying is, like, there's no good men, can't find anything. I think there is a lack of, well, I don't know if lack is the right word, but in a sense, there's not a power of choice. They're not owning to the choice that they chose to be single in this moment. Because if they wanted, they could be in a relationship, but they're choosing to wait to find what their ideal situation is. And I've met women who also said, can't find any good guys out in the world. And I'm like, they're good guys in the world. It's just they're not filling they're not checking all the boxes of additional things. One line item says good guy. Then you have all these other things that are not checking off. There's a lot of guys who check off good guy that you want. but they don't have the looks you want. They don't have the job you want. They don't have the lifestyle you want. They don't have these things. So it's not just that part, because they're like, and 3 of us alone know many guys who are, we consider gentlemen, consider good humans, consider they do right by women, but to certain women, they just don't check off the marks. Yeah. Which is totally fine. But I think when I hear, and it's kind of like what Brandon was saying, is I kind of agree with when I do hear someone say, it's like, oh, there's no good guys in the world, and like, I'm single, and it's like, well, there's a little bit of ownership you should take with that. Like, you're almost, because sometimes it sounds like they're saying is like, I'm put in this situation. Like, it's not my choice to be single right now. I was like, well, I guess you're not finding your ideal person, but there is some ownership that you're choosing to be in this situation and choosing to wait till that ideal person shows up.
I think what it seems like is that this is kind of an issue of vocabulary. So in the search for a dialectic versus a debate, I say that I think maybe it's the terminology and the vocabulary that we use. We use terminology like good guys as if that's a real thing. It's not. That's not a thing. There is no actual checklist of I've been a good guy in my heart most of my life. I have been a terrible fucking partner to a lot of people. And I think that there's this concept of a good man and a good guy and a thing, but the truth is there's 8 billion people, 7 or 8 billion people on the planet, and there's only one that I've ever met that checks all my boxes. And when I was single, I will say, I get what you're saying, like, you didn't complain about, like, you, and I'm sure that Ange at some point said something about good guys, most likely didn't, to be honest, but I like the concept of what you're saying with regards to just being like, this is my thing. Like, yeah, I'm single because I'd rather be single than be with anybody that I've met so far.
Yeah.
I think then, though, counter qualifying that as the good guys thing, like, well, there's good guys out there. You left a good man. Yeah, but that good man may not have checked off 80% of the things. He was just a good dude that maybe didn't like dress in a way that sparked her, maybe didn't, have the drive that she wanted, maybe a good, and I think that's where the good thing gets complicated, because what a good man, what is a good man? Just a polite person, like who, or is it someone who does what they say, who stands by their word, the gentleman that we're trying to refine ourselves into, like, I still know people who I meet now who are like, don't like me, and that it sucks. And I'm sure you guys have too, where it feels
Sure.
You're like, I'm trying really fucking hard here. Like, what? But the truth is, like, maybe it's in the vocabulary, maybe it's in our vernacular that we're setting ourselves up for failure, looking for a good woman or a good man. And maybe it needs to be more individualized.
Well, okay. So yes, and which is the quote I've heard that I actually love is, it's not about finding a good man or a good woman. It's about finding a person that's good for you, right?
Yeah.
That's the quote I heard, and I was like, I can rock with that. Something that Game of Thrones has taught everybody is that nobody's all good and no one's all bad.
Fucking A.
Right?
Well played, Game of Thrones reference. Okay.
Right? Like, some of the worst characters come back around and you're like, yo, you just saved Sansa. Like, how did you, of all people, come back around 6 seasons later when we hated you in the beginning and you just saved someone's life, right? I think that when I thought about that, it really helped me to stop judging the bad boys, because I don't really subscribe to the bad boy. I don't put myself on a pedestal, even though I'm going to share it now. I don't put myself on a pedestal over anyone. And the idea of, well, I'm better than him because. No, I know that his choices, and I'll say this, for the men who are deemed as toxic, the men who are deemed as, and we're not talking abuse.
Yeah.
Right? We're not talking abuse. We're
Just
talking just men who have really bad habits that they developed over time and have questionable morality. in reality, to me, I can sympathize and empathize with those men because I understand that they have some healing to do, right? They really have some healing to do. And another quote, because of cheesy quotes on Instagram, which is, why not? We're just gonna throw them out there, guys. They're free. And this goes both ways, but the quote that's really popular is the one that says, a man who won't heal himself will be toxic to every woman he comes into contact with, right? Which is very real.
Yeah.
So there's truth with a lot of these sayings. But I think ultimately, no, I think there is an idea of what it means to be a good man. I think there's a morality standard in which you can kind of gauge and or say, like, no matter if someone has their own personal thing towards you, like I can literally say to someone right now about you and Jon, those are good men, right? You're on time, you don't take naps, and then wake up and then hop on the call 30 minutes into it.
What kind of terrible person would do that? That's ridiculous. That's just, you know what it is? It's not gentlemanly. It's old age lacking gentlemanliness. If I was to describe it in clear terms.
Proper terms.
So, I think there is a sense, because my thing is, when it comes to what I've seen, I get a lot of messages, a lot of comments that say, where are these men that you guys say exists? And I'm like, I know these men that are willing to do the work, that are very conscious in their efforts, who are not perfect by any means, but are willing to acknowledge their shit and work through it. Yeah. Right? I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, yo, I can be an asshole at times. But I can guarantee you that a large number of people would not deem me as an asshole. More people than not would say he's a good person, which I agree with. I strive to be. But I had to own the other day that I was like, sometimes I'm impatient. Sometimes my neighbor, I'll give you an example. My neighbor thought it was a good idea one day, 2 nights ago. I was in my driveway. I was parked for a bit. I'm in and out. I'm chilling. I'm on Instagram, scrolling the parking lot in the driveway. And he comes out and he's working on his car, but it's by the front of the fence. Now I have 2 large dogs that are 90 pounds, and their whole thing is guarding, right? So they bark when something or someone is near the fence to alert us and alert the neighborhood. Someone's here. Someone, announce yourself. He thinks it's a good idea to say, shut up. And I hopped out of yeah, dude, I had never hopped out of my car so fast. I was like, yeah, hey. To the guy, I couldn't stop myself from what was happening. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I could not stop myself. I was like, you will not talk to my dogs like that. Like, and I remember getting back in the car afterward and I was like, yo, B. Yo, who was that? Like, who was that guy? But it was the equivalent of like someone talking to my kids out of pocket. Like, you may get the guy who will hold the door, say, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, thank you. But at a certain point, there's another side of me, and I was just like, I remember thinking, I got in the car, and I was like, yo, that was something else. So to kind of wrap that up in a nice little bow, Colt, yes, and we have to really be careful with the idea of what is good, because you also don't want to present something good, presenting turf, and it's really bad. But you also don't want to look at something that can use the work in your sense with Ange, and it just takes a little bit of love and care, and you can have a beautiful garden. So there's layers and complexities to this, but it all goes back to choosing. Am I willing? Do I want this? And accepting and owning, back to what Jon says, accepting and owning whatever that choice is and may be.
Yeah, I guess kind of what it comes down to is exactly that. It's just that's the kind of the end all be all of the whole question of choice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, there's not really it seems like a big thing, but again, I'll say this. You know what? Here's a little thing to go back to your cheesecake menu metaphor that I stole. I'm gonna fucking milk this thing. So let's talk about it. Guess what I never do at the Cheesecake Factory? I never look at any of the meat dishes because I don't eat meat. I don't even look. It's not even a fucking question. I have no interest in that. I don't eat pasta there because I did it once and it fucking sucked. And I don't mean it sucked. I mean, it was like super rich and there was just way too much. And I just was like, I'm going to die. You know what I mean? Like through life, we go to the restaurant of love enough times and we start figuring out what it is that we dig. We take our past relationships and our past experiences, and that whittles down our choices to some degree into what we will and won't accept. Right? So at a certain point, again, when you're choosing you first, Ange and I chose each other because we had the same goals for life, for love specifically. We knew that thing that was the pillar, that was the foundation of our life, that is not the foundation of everyone's life. And had I been with someone whose foundation was money, which I was, that didn't work. Had I been with someone whose foundation was power, that didn't work for me. Found someone whose foundation was to be built on the pillar of love. And that was what I was searching for. I knew that. I also knew that I wanted someone who was stunningly attractive, like just unnecessarily. And I was like, fuck yeah, I found her. That there's that too. Great. Also, she's fun as fuck. She loves to party. She's rowdy as shit. And she yells at people in the street. I'll tell you this story because I love this story. It has nothing to do with what we were talking about. I was on the phone with her one time. I just love this story. So I'm on the phone with her one time, and this is when we first had started dating. And I was like, so are you almost to your house? I just wanted her to give me a call when she got to her apartment. And she was like, yeah, I'm almost there. I'm getting ready to walk across the street. Do you want anything hold on a second. Fuck you. Fuck you. I will fucking touch me again. See, I will smack the shit out of you. Fuck you. Turns and goes, hey, sorry about that. Did you want to have rolls? Like, did you want bread? And I was like, what the fuck just happened? She goes, somebody bumped me in the crosswalk. And I was like, I need a ring. How do I propose over the phone? This is like, I knew immediately, like that was another one of those things where I was like, this is someone who is going to fight for every bit of life that she gets. Yeah. And those things made the choice really simple. It was what I wanted. And then I obviously still looked at the world, not at individuals, but at the world as grass is greener situations, because until that moment that we talked about at the end of the last episode, I didn't make that final choice. Yeah. Or the large choice. I shouldn't say the final choice because fucking this choice is every day, like I said. But yeah, I think it's using your past to whittle down your choices, make it easier on yourself. The world does not have to be an endless bevy of options. If it is, are you learning anything from this fucking ride? Like, what's the point? No. Like, learn about yourself, learn what you want, what you will and won't accept, what you want your foundation to be built on, and look for that. And I actually will retract the earlier thing of, I do think there are certain tenets that make a good person. I think there are certain things based out of love, based out of kindness. You win this round. That are so necessary just to finding that basis of things. And those were qualities that I guess that she saw in me. There were other things that I tried to cover that with that speaks to my immaturity. And I will say, I think we talked about this at one point, which is like, it's not about good or bad. Bad boys don't exist. It's not bad. They're immature and they can grow with the right person. Yep. But I will say that no matter what maturity is not about age. If you're in a relationship for 2 years and you look at somebody else and you're like, man, maybe that's what I want instead of this. That's just a sign of immaturity if you're not going to deal with it. If you're not going to deal with what's causing your want for that and whatever this isn't. So yeah.
Well, I want to throw in one thing I think that gets to include in this conversation is commitment. Once you make that choice, committing to that. And there's a quote that I love. It's just like, I might be paraphrasing or mixing up a little bit, but it's like, commitment is keeping to a choice long after the feeling that you had when you originally made that choice. So it's just like when we choose something, we're like, wow, usually with endorphins are up and usually we're feeling great. Like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. And eventually that feeling goes away. And then a lot of times we're like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. But that's what commitment is. Once you commit, that's why a lot of people, I forget who told me, where it's just like, it's very easy to make a decision. It's very easy to be like, hey, tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm going to go work out at 8 in the morning. But I can make a new decision tomorrow at 8 in the morning and be like, I don't want to work out. But if I said the night before, I'm making a commitment tomorrow to work out at 8 in the morning. Now tomorrow morning, it's not making a new commitment. It's either breaking the commitment or keeping my commitment. And I think it's the same thing with the relationships. I think it's with friendships and whatever it is. I think it's like once we make a commitment, and it could be even Cheesecake Factory. You're choosing to have that veggie dish. It's committing to that. And when other dishes come out and you see them, you're happy for that person. Like, they're getting to enjoy that, but you're happy with the choice that you have because this is what you decided in the moment. You're going to stick with it. You're not going to, in the moment, be like, actually, I don't want this anymore. Can I get that pizza over there that they have? Like, no, there's a reason I'm eating this. There's a reason I chose to have this. There's a reason I'm going to stick with this. I'm going to be happy. Because a lot of times when we stay with it and be happy for other people and their decisions, we actually can enjoy what we've chosen a lot more. But I think a lot of people, what Colt mentioned earlier, is it's like a decision between abundance and scarcity. If you're always looking out at what are the options are, it's basically saying is that you're not coming from a place of abundance and you need to make sure you get whatever you can because you might miss out. If you don't get that, then you've missed out, and then now like you're less than. And in reality, it's like, no, you're at any moment you have the choice, and by making that choice, you continue to fulfill that. We do have the ultimate decision in what we want in our life.
Yeah.
Not to try and disagree with everybody tonight. I'm trying so hard to disagree for once. We're finally doing it, guys. We're not disagreeing. It's literally a minute. It's actually a minute kind of
Just
technicality, as it were.
housekeeping, guys. Housekeeping.
Yeah. Qualifications are necessary. It's kind of how one thing that you said about commitment, how we make that based on that impetus and that excitement, and then it dwindles over time. My goal, like our goal with Part of Love, is for you to understand that is not true. I cannot tell you how many times a fucking day I'm just doing something. I'm like, I fucking love you so much. God damn it. Like, I am overwhelmed with how much I love how fucking attracted I am, how empowered I am by her, how annoyed I am by her, how annoying I am to her. I love her so much, and that has not dwindled. It has grown since the first time that I said it. I made that commitment, and I kind of talked about this. I made that commitment, and I meant it, but I didn't understand it. When I committed to take care of her, when I took her hand from her father's hand, I had no fucking clue what I was doing. And the irony is, my best man's speech was about the fact that I never have any clue what I'm doing and that it always somehow works out. Because he and I had, the last story was that I had bought a couch, which was like a very, very large Chesterfield, like classic leather Chesterfield with a built-in sofa from a high-rise in like Midtown. Yeah. And we went and picked it up, got it down through the back elevator, and we walked outside, and he was like, how are we getting it home? And I was like, ended up, couldn't get a cab to carry it because obviously ended up paying a meat truck to put it in the back, ended up getting to become friends with the meat truck driver and ended up getting a bunch of fucking free steaks. The point is, I didn't understand what I was doing.
You finish the story with the point is. The meat truck driver.
Watch me do it.
It's the meat truck driver.
He was awesome, dude. He was so nice. But what I'm saying though is about the commitment thing. It only grows if it's that person that you're growing with, right? That's the goal. It's not. We talked about this morning because we're doing live shows on Tuesday now. Just because of the schedule of the movie. Brandon, I don't think I told you I'm filming a movie right now, and that's why the schedule's been all fucked up. But we were talking about the fact that people talk about. I'm so sorry. I know I've hijacked so much of this conversation, so I appreciate you guys letting me ramble.
Fine. Just keep talking.
We talked about the fact that we are put in this, whether it's Hollywood society, whatever, tells us when you're dating, when you're a certain age, you're gonna be fiery, you're gonna be fucking all the time, you're gonna have so much sex, it's gonna be awesome, and then you're gonna get married and it's going to dwindle off, and then eventually you're gonna have problems, and it's just not, that's just the way that relationships work. The way that relationships work is that you become comfortable over time, and so there have to be certain aspects of it that grow, but without that growth, why would you find anything sexy? You know all of that. If you know everything about the sex you're going to have and the person is the same person, it doesn't matter who it is, it's not interesting, right? So I think it's that, but for the heart, I think that is the same thing. It's constantly that growth and reminding ourselves that like the goal here is that when you're 90 fucking years old, it's not I survived 60 or 70 years with this person. It's I love them more. We have built a life. We've seen so much life together. We've done so many things. I'm such a better person for knowing this person. You choose them because they're the person you want to spend the rest of your life with. That is the goal. And if you're going to spend the rest of your life with somebody, it should enrich that life. And so for me, commitment is fucking, it doesn't dwindle, man. It gets so much better. And I cannot wait till the time that we have a conversation and you're like, you were right. So cheers. Because on that day, Brandon, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go.
We learn from each other.
You won the battle. I won the war. All right. Hey, to that end, cheers, you guys.
Cheers.
Love y'all. Love these conversations. I don't know if we're done, but I'm just cheersing you because I want to drink.
It felt necessary. You like in my body, I was like, yo, we need a cheers right here. Like we have to have one. There's so much brotherhood in these calls. And I thought about it, like we make a choice every week to text each other, to hop on here and to give openly and freely, right? We give openly and freely. And we're also, I can speak for myself. I walk away every time.
There he goes.
So moved.
Don't you cry for me, Argentina.
I do. I leave so moved. I leave so charged. I leave. Actually, I was fucking around, but now it's actually like hitting me. I was playing around. I was like, I'm emotional. Now I'm like, no, I'm actually emotional. But we make a choice. I mean, we are each other's mirrors. Colt and Jon, you both give me something that I'm so happy to have fulfilled in me. And the conversations and the relationships I have with you are so different, but also so similar that I know that even in our platonic relationships, right? And people don't often talk about this in regards to men. It's like even the men in your life are a representation of what you're looking for in a partner, right? That kind of camaraderie, that kind of like laughter, that kind of sense of humor, like you still want that with your partner, right? It shows you that this is a part of you that comes alive and exists. And so don't ignore it, acknowledge it, right? And say, damn, I really like the way that I talk to Jon in this way. I really like the way that I have this with Colt. And when you meet someone, you're like, yo, this feels familiar. It's because you have that in your life already, and it's covered in love. It's covered in love already. Yeah. So then you acknowledge it and you accept it and you say, yo, this is dope to have. I think one of the things that I didn't realize until later in life is that I really enjoy a good shit talker. I seriously, when I'm dating, I enjoy somebody who can give me the business. Like, don't let me just slide, like, give me the business. And it's something that it shows that there's more to us than just like the deep, and there's more to us than just like being like overly romantic all the time, right? And it helps you to really be yourself. And that's what I was gonna say earlier, which is, you know, the thing that I learned from my past was any relationship that is asking of me or requiring me to change who I am, not to grow, but yes, to change who I am, it's a no-go. But my story that I had a hard time letting go of was, and we talked about this, this has to be the one. This has to be the last one. Yeah. This has to be the last time I fall in love. This has to be the last woman that I'm with because I have to, whatever.
Yeah.
And in that choice of having to be with someone and this being the last time, what I ended up sacrificing was so greater than choosing to be in something I knew wasn't really good for me. And you have to weigh that. Like, are you losing something in order to stay with something? And I knew for myself, I would never make that decision again. And I would never be with anyone and ask them to do that. To give away who they were, to change who they are in order to be with me.
Well, we're going to keep talking because that opens up another door. Why not? I love it.
We got 6 minutes.
We got time.
Plenty of time.
We got time.
We talk about this a lot and you kind of just hit on it. And so I can't not talk about it. It's too ever present at the forefront of my brain. What you're looking for, in my opinion, is your best friend. You want a best friend. You want to marry your best friend. The person you're going to be in a relationship with forever is your best friend. It's the person that understands you. It's the person that can share everything with you. It's the person that you love spending time with, and you kind of like lose sight of it. And also that's the thing that I think so many of us fuck up is we don't treat them like we would treat our best friends. There are things we've said, all of us have said in relationships or done in relationships that we would never do to our best friends. But I look at Ange and I'm like, that's my fucking best friend in the world. And we get to have sex. It's amazing. Like, it's the fucking best. And not to like, you know, trivialize it, but it's true. That's what a marriage is. Like, that's what the relationship goals is. And I don't yet understand why society seems scared of that. On the overall, I feel like a lot of society is scared of admitting that my wife is my best friend. It's, no, well, that's my wife and I like her a lot and that's cool, but this is my best friend. And you're like, no. And my best friend knows this very openly, just like his wife is his best friend. She should know him better. She should be the person he goes to first. If you come to me before you go to your spouse about everything, that tells me a whole lot about that relationship. Now that doesn't mean that there aren't situations, there aren't times, there aren't things, but yeah, I love that you said that and that you feel like that and that is what you're searching for, man. Like, I dig that. Be best friends. Fucking golden ticket.
This note that we're leaving on, I'm fucking fired up.
I know, seriously.
I am fired up.
Do a sailor fist pump.
I just woke up, guys. Hey, by the way, they don't judge me. When someone loves you, they love all of you, okay? They love
Elbows, ashy elbows. No, no, you did not. You did not say, I just woke up. Fuck it. Episode 9. Videos here. Subscribe over there. John, Brandon, links below. Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
So it's going, y'all. I like that.
Oh, man.
All right, I got to get up and go to set. So love y'all. Thanks for doing this. And
Congrats, brother. I love you.
thanks very much. Love you too, man. Bye, John.
Yo.
Get some sleep.